Hello, welcome to the self-learning platform by Dr. Sushma Singh. Today we start Unit 7, UN System, Pacific Settlement of Disputes. And we are continuing our discussion the UN system, the principal organs. And our organ is the General Assembly. All the members of UN are members of General Assembly. Each member can have 5 representatives, but only one vote. Articles 9 and 18. In 1945, when the organization came into being, there were only 51 members, but their number now stands at 191. The number increased first as former colonies and trust territories attained independence and became members. The Soviet Union got split and 12 new states emerged, and of them, 3 were already members and 9 states became new members. Several microstates such as Monaco, San Marino became members. Yugoslavia got split into 4 new states. Admission of a new member is by the General Assembly on recommendations of the Security Council. Admission is thus necessarily subject to the veto of the permanent members. The Assembly reaches its decisions on important matter by a majority of the two-thirds of the members present and voting. Article 18 lists matters which are regarded as important, and the list includes recommendations with respect to international peace and security. Election of members to various organs of UN as provided by the Charter, admission to, suspension or expulsion from membership of UN and the budget. Other question may be decided by a simple majority of those present and voting. Whether any question other than those mentioned should be regarded as important is to be decided by two-thirds majority. The powers of General Assembly are stated in Articles 10 to 14. Article 10 gives power to discuss any question or matter which is within the scope of UN Charter or the powers and functions of any organ provided for in the Charter and make recommendations to the members of the UN or the Security Council or both on such questions or matters. But an exception is made as provided in Article 12. It is that when the Security Council is exercising in respect of any question or situation the functions assigned to it by the Charter, the General Assembly shall not make any recommendation with respect to such question or situation. In practice, this exception is understood as limited to recommendations involving coercive action. Other recommendations are often made after discussion in the General Assembly, even while the Security Council is considering the matter. The Secretary General keeps the General Assembly informed of the matters relating to international peace and security that are being dealt with by the Security Council and informs the General Assembly or its members if the Assembly is not in session. When the Security Council ceases to deal with the matter, Article 11 gives power to the General Assembly to consider the general principles concerning international cooperation in the maintenance of international peace and security, including of disarmament or regulation of armaments, and make recommendations with regard to such principles to members or to the Security Council or to both. The General Assembly may discuss any question brought before it by any member on by the Security Council or by a non-member under the conditions prescribed in Article 35, that is, accepting the principles of Charter regarding peaceful settlement of disputes, and make recommendations to the states concerned or to the Security Council. The General Assembly may call the attention of Security Council to any situation likely to endanger international peace and security. The powers under Article 11 are without prejudice to the very wide general power given under Article 10. Article 13 gives the power to promote studies and make recommendations concerning international cooperation in economic, social, educational, and health fields, and realization of human rights. Article 14 gives power to recommend measures for the peaceful adjustment of any situation, regardless of origin, which the Assembly deems likely to impair the general welfare of and peaceful relations among nations, including any situation arising from the violation of the purposes and principles of the UN. Article 10, 11, and 14 thus create competence to discuss matters concerning international disputes and make recommendations, but subject to the exception provided by Article 12. That is, while the Security Council is discussing the matter, the General Assembly shall not recommend any coercive measures. As the composition of General Assembly changed with the admission of new members, issues that were discussed as important ones in the Assembly also changed. When the organization was founded, the West was in a position to command at any time two-thirds majority, but with entry of new members, with this command was lost. In the first decade after the founding, when it was found that Security Council was paralyzed by the veto, the West brought the matters before the General Assembly to attain its purpose. From 1960 onwards, the new independent states and socialist countries pressed for independence of the colonial possessions and trust territories. The South, that is, the underdeveloped countries which are mostly formed colonies, brought before the Assembly issues such as a new international economic order, sovereignty over natural resources of a state, human rights. But the North, that is the rich industrialized countries, and the South brought environmental matters for discussion. At the beginning of each annual general session of the Assembly, each member so desiring brings to the attention of the Assembly the matters that it considers as important and urgent. An important development took place in 1950 during the adoption of the Uniting for Peace resolution. At that time, for a while, the Soviet Union boycotted the Security Council in protest over the occupation of the seat of China in the Council by the nationalist China based in Taiwan and not the communist China based on mainland. And in 1950, the communist North Korea invaded South Korea, which was under the protection of United States, with a view to unify both Koreas. The United States at once sent forces to defend South Korea. The Security Council met and decided that North Korea attack constituted a breach of peace and called for immediate cessation of hostilities. As North Korea did not comply with the demand, the Council in a resolution called upon the members of United States to furnish such assistance to the Republic of Korea, that is South Korea, as may be necessary to repel the attack and to restore international peace and security in the area. All the members providing forces were requested to place them under the unified command of the United States. There was authorization to use the flag of United Nations and of the members contributing forces. The Security Council was able to take these steps because the Soviet Union was absent from the Council. The Soviet Union realized its mistake and returned to the Council, and any further action by the Council was not possible. At this juncture, the United States took the initiative to introduce the Uniting for Peace resolution in the General Assembly. According to this resolution, if the Security Council is unable to act due to the exercise of the veto by any permanent member, the General Assembly may meet in an emergency special session and make recommendation for use of force to preserve international peace and security. The emergency special session may be called by a resolution passed by any seven members, later nine, of the Security Council or by a simple majority in the General Assembly. Acting under this resolution, the Assembly called for stability throughout Korea and establishment of a unified Korea. As the forces led by United States started pushing into North Korea, China intervened on a large scale and repelled the invading forces. All armistice took place as a result of negotiations between the delegations of United States, North Korea, and China. The armistice line, which is around the 38th parallel, continues to be now the dividing line between the two Koreas. The Soviet Union challenged the legal validity of the Uniting for Peace resolution, but in later times, under this resolution, the Assembly met several times and acted. The argument in support of legality of the Uniting for Peace resolution is that the Security Council is given primary responsibility for maintaining international peace and security, but not exclusive responsibility. The General Assembly, on the other hand, has competence to discuss any matter coming within the scope of the Charter and to make recommendations. In the advisory opinion on certain expenses of United Nations, the International Court of Justice expressed the opinion that in the division of powers between the Security Council and the General Assembly was not excluded from adopting measures designed to maintain international peace and security. The court stated that the expenses incurred for peacekeeping in pursuance of a resolution of the General Assembly acting under the Uniting for Peace resolution were expenses properly incurred by the United Nations and therefore members should contribute to them under the budget. Here we want to wind up this lecture. Thank you so much for your attention.